So welcome back. I hear some great discussions, and I think the buzz in the room is that's a very good sign. So exactly what we want from the Industrialized Construction Forum. But welcome back. We have a continued very exciting program, and we're continuing now with a session called Housing as a Product. And the theme for the forum this year is, as Martin mentioned before, local innovations and global markets. And I think all sessions will show that, but this session absolutely. We'll see some very interesting companies, very local, but we will also have a global company in this session. First speaker is actually two speakers. It's Curtis Wong, who is the CEO of Cloud Apartments, and Apoorva Pasricha, who's the COO of Cloud Apartments. And Curtis is also actually a Stanford alumni, so welcome back to campus. And the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Really excited to kick this off and talk about IC more. This is an event that I've tried to come to every year, so I will say this is probably my favorite one of the year, and it's really honored to be here. Coming here even just 4 or 5 years ago, it's interesting to see how things have changed. At that time, I would say prop tech was all the rage, and you could see a lot of hype and all this stuff going on. And it has seemed to quiet down on that front, but at the same time, you have Assemblymember Wicks here talking about all of these policies she's pushing forward. So I would say this is quite an exciting time for the industry. You know, been in it for a while. It seems particularly exciting at this time. Assemblymember Wicks, she has a lot of bills. We use them actually in our developments for entitlement. They have been incredible for us to get housing entitled for affordable and workforce housing. So we're really, really excited that she's looking at this space. I just want to stress that. The goal of today's presentation, we want to just recognize that IC is still emerging, it's still evolving. It's something that we were all in this together trying to make this mainstream and solve a lot of big issues. So we want to just present in a very transparent way a lot of hard-earned insights, what led us to our particular approach with cloud, what we have learned along the way and have evolved, because everything's changing, and where we think this is going, just at a high level. So hopefully just sharing lessons and we can all learn together. So I'll start. This is a little bit of my own personal approach to industrialized construction, what drew me in. Really quick background, I am a structural engineer first. I did get a little bit frustrated, to be honest, working in the industry as far as feeling stifled with innovation and just some of the things that I think a lot of us understand. I have pivoted a few times. So I went to SpaceX just to see, okay, that's quite different. Of course, it doesn't totally translate to our industry, but a lot of exciting things and things what we can do if we really push together. Industrialized construction came about going back into school saying, okay, with engineering, let's figure out how to solve housing. Prefab was something that was really exciting, and spent those 2 years just saying, how do we want to approach industrialized construction? Volumetric modular was the one that hooked me, and panelized and all these other ways. I know that's a whole debate, but volumetric modular. At the time, Katerra, RadUrban, those are probably the most notable companies that were exciting. We're all there, calling everyone I could to say, okay, the basic promise of industrialized construction is simple. This is insight number one because it's the most basic, but why don't we just mass produce in a factory, get mass production efficiencies like we do with, say, televisions and washing machines and all these other mainstream goods, and just get housing costs down to build those buildings at a lower cost to make it pencil? Like, why is it so hard? When you interview all these companies at the time, it turns out that they're trying to put out fires left and right. They're not even getting to volume and standardization. There are just so many issues. And even when they do get standardization, some of the issues we've talked about with different cycles throughout the year, it's just so many things going on that you wouldn't think about in the very beginning. For me, I decided to pursue this as a career, so I worked as a developer. This is a building that was at a different time, but it's a 16-story tower in San Francisco, all volumetric modular, and spent a couple years entitling it, permitting it, financing it, learning about modular from that lens. And what's interesting, another insight here, is that costs, we had a $500 per square foot target to get this to pencil. That's where you get it to be financed. We were at $600 with conventional, a lot of work to do. We basically said, okay, let's try modular, which is why I came in, talked to every factory that was out there and priced it again and went up quite a bit to $630 a square foot. This is quite a common experience, unfortunately, for modular. It's not as easy as just plug and play and it works. The insight is that actually field cost is quite bloated relatively. It's not really the factory necessarily that we all focus on. When we spent another year digging in, it was the site MEP particularly. This has gone better today, but at the time, especially plumbers, electricians, the trades, to no fault of their own, they don't have databases. They don't know exactly what the scope is for theirs, and they end up just discounting about 10%, even though a scope of a modular product is far less. So again, the basics were not being hit, but the insight was that field need to be focused on as well. And you'll see there's a theme here that it's just more and more holistic. We start in the factory and we keep zooming out because there's all these other things going on. This led to the founding of Cloud Apartments after. So, armed with all these learnings and insights, it's like, where do we want to focus? Where has it been historically, and where do we want to go forward? Starting on this 2x2, bottom left would say just is the standard for the industry. Very custom, not vertically integrated at all. I mean, this is what we're used to. We can call it siloed, we call it fragmented, but that's where we are. Top left is, I would say, Katerra is the poster child. We'll keep mentioning that, but vertically integrated, raise a lot of money. To me, they seem still pretty custom, surprisingly, but I think the idea is that you vertically integrate it, you're sophisticated, you can build custom. That's where the market is. You don't need to change behavior of development. That has proven to be difficult. I don't need to get into that. I do want to say top right is a little bit the Toyota analogy or the car analogy. Relatively vertically integrated, fully productized, just churning. We wanted to focus on bottom right, which felt like a little bit closer to the behavior of construction. In this case, we would be very partnership-based. So the opposite of vertical integrated is horizontally integrated. So true partnerships where we find certified general contractors, subcontractors, factories that understand the cloud system, and we all kind of work together. We all know what's going on. The other one is productized or standardized. So this is where we are accepting that we want to change behavior in the industry. We want to standardize. That's a challenge on its own, but we can get into that, our approach to there.
And now I'll go a little bit over cloud's approach to industrialized construction. And before I do that, just a little bit on my own background. Curtis and I met in business school, which was when I had first heard about kind of the inklings of what is now cloud. But my own background has been in trying to change industries that are legacy industries using technology and innovation. And I've done it from the policy and public sector side, and then also the private sector side. So you throw, I don't know, government procurement, transportation, housing, these industries at me that have a lot of red tape, a lot of regulation, I will take it. And that's been my background and approach to housing. So seeing, I think, manufacturing and seeing transportation through the lens of Zoox, which is where I was at before, it was very clear that when you're focusing on something that is being manufactured, how important it is to focus on the handoffs between where something gets manufactured and then where it eventually ends up. And that insight was really important in even looking at how I evaluated housing companies. And so looking at cloud's approach and thinking about this idea of focusing on field costs was something that really spoke to me when I joined the company a couple of years ago at this point. But when we think about what is it that we are doing, and Curtis alluded to the idea of horizontal partnerships, it didn't start, the company didn't start where it is today. The company initially was founded on the idea that residents are the people who we're building for. They want affordable housing, they want high quality homes, and because residents want that, developers will want to build it. And if developers build it, then we'll have enough demand to give to factories because we'll be able to give them consistent, standardized production. And contractors will also be excited about it because we're giving them coordinated, repetitive work. That's not what happened. We found that developers, especially in today's market, are not necessarily building through what is being demanded on the resident side, but they're building based on what their pro formas are asking of them. And so for us, it was a big insight into, well, where do we want to sit in this entire ecosystem? And how do we sit at the center of it where we can actually standardize the product, where we can standardize our process and bring everyone else along on our platform and the reason why people will want to do that is because we will give them cost savings, and that's going to become our compelling value proposition, because that is the thing that is driving decisions for developers day in and day out. And so today, with this insight, what we are doing is kind of a two-part approach. So we have standardized the actual product. So we have pre-permitted apartments, anywhere from studios to 3 and 4 bedrooms. And we couple them with assemblies that we have also standardized, because these assemblies are really what focus on the things that are breaking down in the field. And so our productization doesn't end at what's inside the house. It's actually what are the guts of the system that need to be manufactured, because mechanical engineering, plumbing connections are really what are driving costs in the field. And so if we believe this thesis of field is where we need to focus, we want to bring in standardization to the field. And so we have these two things, and what we do is partner with a network of factories and general contractors and subcontractors to actually do the delivery. And I think the other part of this where that's been a big kind of learning for us has been and our vision has been, we want to reduce the cost of construction to make industrialized construction something that can be adopted and scaled widely. And we saw that, and heard about that with the Sweden example that Assemblymember Wicks give. And we talked a little bit about what is getting in the way. And for us, the big learning has been, if you look at site built today, you have the bar on the far left. And if you look at what happens in factories today and you look at the average development, what we're finding is that 1/3 of the costs are in the factory and 2/3 end up being on site. And our vision and what we're trying to do as a company is really focus on reducing that install and fit out cost at the end, which is where field costs really come into play. And then long term, we want to continue to expand the scope of the factory so that factories are getting more revenue, but also we are seeing the benefits of having economies of scale when we're standardizing production and giving factories more work. And so this is the overall vision of where we are today, but then where we want to get to in this optimized modular state where we're working towards. And I think one thing that this has really taught us is that the early adopters of industrialized construction are also going to look at IC as a long-term bet that they want to make. And for us, what that meant is early on, the customers who we were working with, the developers we were working with, we were looking at IC as a one-off thing that they wanted to do on a project. And this shift has also helped us self-select early customers and early groups of people who are really thinking about IC as the programmatic thing that they want to put their bet on, which has been a really big learning for us.
So that was the theory, a lot of the theory behind the start of the company. There are challenges that we want to share along the way. It's not always that easy. This is such a simple formula, but I just feel like if you're not really focusing on the development side, we just need to understand this formula, because this drives development. It's such a simple formula, but it's this simple. When we say something pencils, it means your yield on cost is over, say, 6%. Say in California, I mean, that's just an arbitrary number, but it's a simple, you need to make a certain percentage, and that's as simple as that, to make a deal look like it's worth going to the next step. When we break this down to understand developer behavior and what it takes to standardize, you'll just look at net operating income, right? That's driven primarily by your rents you're gathering. If I'm a developer and I want to make sure I get a certain number, like a 6%, I'm going to look at all the buildings in the area. I'm going to look at exactly what those are renting at. Maybe the two bedrooms have a den. Maybe they have a certain amenity. Maybe they're a certain size, et cetera. I'm going to copy that because I do not want to not have a building that doesn't lease up. That is already customization because every geography is different, right? We are already customized because you have certainty on your rents. When you get to the other side on the development cost, which is the same impact on your yield, your construction cost is uncertain, relatively. You might have like a 3-sheet drawing set very early. You go to price it with a general contractor. To no fault of their own, they're going to say like $400 a square foot, contingency. If we say, hey, they're all standard units, there's no variety, you're going to get the same answer, $400 a square foot. We don't know what's going to happen. For that reason, why would we focus on construction costs and standardization? We are going to focus on rents. That is the less risk way to do it with the current data sets that we have. That was an early insight. What we're learning here is that we need to get construction cost data. We may have all the answers with systems that are cool, that all slide together. 3 years before construction, when we're entitling a project, we have to know how much it costs to justify standardizing. There is an immense timeline for every project that we don't talk about because entitlements to permitting to construction is a major timeline. For us, we didn't expect this, but we are just looking at data. We were looking at cost codes. We were looking at all the learnings from my past experience where we need to scope things correctly as well. On the right is just a basic diagram of a building, but you see categories, right? Category A is your basic foundation, podium, site work. Category B is your factory. Category C is the hookup of those modules on site. And it's a simple stoplight. We want to turn everything green, ideally. Everything should be built in the factory if we can. So there's some innovation there that we're pushing. But in yellow could be a super sub, that's what we call it, but a multidisciplined crew that is just trained to hook these up. In red is a little bit difficult, but actually it helps to do this because you're scoping out correctly. Now we can go to, say, a plumbing sub and say, just focus on pricing red, that's it. Do not price anything else. The building got a lot smaller, the price goes down. So cost clarity is everything. And just want to show a little bit on the left, an example of a category C scope for volumetric modular. This is where we stand today. It is just bare, right? There is so much work that's still done in the field that we don't talk about. We see a module set, you celebrate, you walk away, and then 6 months later, the building's not open, right? We never focus on this, but this is what we need to focus on. This one is a little bit of what we're into now, and it's not solved yet, but it's funny, we have fought to get standardization across our portfolio. So we have the numbers, we have volume, we have standardization. You would think that now is the time you get the factory savings. Unfortunately, you don't. And you have to understand a little bit that funnily, factories aren't really set up to save at volume and scale. It's just not set up that way. If you have 1,000 standard units, think of it this way, and they're broken up into 100-unit projects, you're ordering 100 units at a time. You're not getting bulk efficiency. It's just how it is right now. We're going to have to look at supply chain. We're going to have to go a layer deeper and get suppliers to kind of unlock savings there on the material side. But it's not like it's done. There's a lot of homework to do. Same with labor. You have your factory, say 200 workers on the line. They get 2 modules out a day. They have products that are standardized. They have products that aren't. You're going to have the same throughput. It doesn't really change it. The same labor goes per box. It's not that simple. So we are looking into things like sub-assemblies on the right, trying to be clever, trying to help factories, because every factory wants to increase their annual throughput. And that's where we can try to be good partners with them. But the point here is it's just not a gimme once you get standardization. All right.
I think we've also faced challenges beyond the productization of the actual units that we're building, and they've really been around financing and regulation. So one thing that we've really learned in the last year has been the idea that we can't innovate in isolation ourselves on an island, and we need the regulatory and the financing ecosystem to evolve with us. And one thing that's really come out for us is in the process of working with the developers that we do, we realized how important that bridge financing becomes in order for developers to want to do modular, because the reason why they don't do it is they have to put up dollars before in order to pay the factory so that the factory can go procure materials, and developers don't have that money up front to do it, and they're not able to loan. Half of the loans that are available to them don't allow money to be used in that way. And so that learning has taught us that we thought that we could test our innovation on other developers, and that's not actually the case. That the learning for us was really, do we start a development company in addition to the tech company that we have as a way to prove the thesis and the point that we are trying to make around IC and the fact that we can actually drive costs down? And that was a really important learning for us to say, yes, this is an investment that we need to make. And so now we're partnering with the San Francisco Housing Accelerator Fund as an example, as a group, to do development. But that's all with this idea that we know that we have to be the test beds of our own innovation. And even though we spend time de-risking it for others, they're not going to be as comfortable as us taking that risk because we know our systems better than anyone. So that's been another core learning. And then on the regulation side, I think we went to Sweden with Turner Labs as well earlier last year, and it was very clear how the regulatory environment has set up the right incentive structures to enable repetition, to support standardization, and we don't have that here. And it's inspiring to see Assemblymember Wicks work on things like that. But I think one of the things that it really showed us as a learning was that we need to get involved on the policymaking side more, even as an earlier stage company, because a lot of legacy groups or larger organizations and more established organizations are often the ones that are turned to for insights around what's happening on the ground. But companies, Airbnb, great example of a place where the question was, when does a policy team actually come in an organization? And I think we're learning to do a lot of that process now. And that has come from the fact that we know in order to see IC at scale, there's going to be policy change that will have to happen to support the adoption in the way we want to see it to solve the housing crisis.
Oh, yeah. So we'll go through this pretty quick. We're reaching the end of our time, but this is one thing that when I was at Stanford, we learned a lot about, and it's particularly exciting. But it makes so much sense in this model, right? We have so many close partnerships, but we're still doing design, bid, build. Who's taking the risk? It's like, that's why we have a DevCo, but also integrated project delivery. Maybe this is a good example of where we can work with some people in the room that wrote the book on it. So really excited to have future conversations here. And then you could take it.
I think that the big kind of conclusion for us over the last few years of the company has been how do we shift this thinking from one-off customization on projects to more standardization and productization, and then broadly to systems level change. And Assemblymember Wicks had mentioned that affordability is the outcome that we're all aspiring for. And what we've seen is that the group of people who we're going to have to bring along in creating that systems change keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so how do we make sure that we're actually embracing not doing innovation on an island, but actually getting involved in understanding what are the cities looking for, what are policymakers looking for, what are financiers looking for? Because at the end of the day, to recover from what happened with Katerra and some of the more remarkable failures in the industry, we actually have to shift the entire narrative around industrialized construction. And to do that, we're talking about wanting to embrace a systems level change.
Yeah, a little over that.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Apoorva and Curtis. And they will be back very soon. So we will have a joint panel discussion with all the speakers of the session. So hold your questions for them, and there will be opportunities. Next speaker is Shai Shachrur. I do not know if I pronounce it correctly, but I think...
I cannot pronounce it either.
But anyway, I think I know that you're vice president of Vive. And Vive is an interesting company, also very local, has a factory in Hayward. Vive is one of these companies that we heard a lot about. Then it went away for a while and came back again. And so we're super excited to have you here, Shai. So you have 20 minutes. Yes, of course.
Even shorter than 20 minutes, but thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm definitely on the engineering nerd side. Are there still politician nerds in the room? Right, rest my case. I'm coming from a product design background, not just architectural engineering, construction, different types of products from drug delivery systems to even funny stuff like automatic cat litter box. Just yesterday, my son sent me an email to myself and my wife, starting with like, Mom and Dad, I think I need a room for myself. He's with his sister, and this is why. I will not explain the why, but I think that this is why I'm in this business. I think housing is a people-to-people business more than everything else. We try to attach business models to that, the B2B, B2C. We work with developers, but it's a people-to-people business, and that's my main motivation to try to innovate in that space. And I was thinking, what can I share in this forum? How can we make the impact? Because a shortage of 2.5 million homes, it's a crisis. It's not a shortage, right? So information sharing, it's not against competition, against the success of any company. So I'm a big fan of survivorship bias, and I'm going to share with you on how did we spend and burn $600 million, hopefully, in 5 to 10 minutes. Feel free also to meet me after that, visit our factory. I think that information sharing, not going through mistakes of other companies, is important for this industry to get the impact. How do I use that?
That's the clicker.
Nice. All right, so a little bit about Viv. We started a company in 2017 to build, it was a startup company at that time, 4 times faster, high quality, single-family home. Actually, not exactly single-family home. We have built more than 400 units of all kinds, ADUs, townhomes, multi-families. This is one that we have built in San Carlos. It's a townhome. We started as a vertically integrated company, which is, again, a big question. Do we need to be that? Land, design and analysis, production, logistics and transportation, constructions, and also sale. 2024, we were acquired by Lennar. We have a factory in Hayward. We built Panelized. This is how it looks like in reality. You know, how do I click to just show the video? And just I click that and it works. Let's pray. Oh, yeah, it is. So that's a video that I took just a month ago in one of our home sites in Santa Rosa. We build teardowns and scattered home sites. Our direction is mainly around urban renovation. It's a real time-lapse, no edited. The whole concept is a home in a box. You can see the box on the left side. It's a container that we have modified to carry the panels, floor and wall panels. It takes 2 to 3 days to build the shell of the home. It's a fully closed system with mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. And another 40 days to complete the finishes. There's a whole history around that. We started with a fully fabricated. I'll speak to that a little bit more later. But you can see the speed. And by the way, this is a team that we just onboarded as part of our Trade Partners program. This team is building that for the first time, and those are the only ones that has the orange vest over there. All the rest are for my team taking notes and time studies and trying to improve the system. It stopped. Okay, so believe me, there is a roof at the end, and there is a second floor and a roof at the end. On the technology side, we are a closed panel system, steel frame. The steel frame was chosen because of sustainability, because of resilience, but also in order to achieve accuracy and a very small footprint for a factory, to not ship volumes, but to transform density into volume. It's a state-approved system. It's part of the Factory Build Home program, so we save a lot of the regulatory part. We have inspectors in our factory testing our electrical, mechanical, plumbing systems. So every panel that comes out, it comes with a sticker that is approved by the state. There is some tension with cities, who takes which part, who's reviewing the planning. We send permits to both, fun stuff. And it's a relatively low-cost factory. The scaling program is to consider that as a Costco branch, right? You need to build one factory around a major metropolitan, and you can renovate the whole city. So every factory can save around 300 miles around it. Our current throughput, we're building a home every week, end-to-end, including finish and sell. We can build much more than that. Our current capacity can be a home a day. And the biggest bottleneck is actually getting land, getting permits, getting power from PG&E. That's a lovely story. And by the way, the solution space exists. We have solutions on how to create a livable unit, even without PG&E, and sometimes even in a lower cost than what PG&E can provide. But the lines do not allow you. The lines do not allow you to get the certificate of occupancy and to sell the home. So those are the fun challenges. On the bottom, you can see the plug-and-play system, another fascinating concept that we still have. It's a moving target. We started with a UL-approved, fire-rated plug-and-play system for mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Today, we actually use the most sophisticated AI system to just figure out what the code wants from us, like what the regulation wants for us. Because when we finished that, we started to discovering deep in the mazes of the code that there are some specific requirements for specific connectors that do not allow you to use certain connectors. We all fly in aircrafts made by Boeing and other companies with connectors and with fuel certifications. Somehow in construction, it's not allowed. And those are the areas that you find out only after you spend $600 million. All right, so this is one great mechanism that I have developed as a product-centric organization to take decisions, because the cost of decision in construction it's really expensive. I mean, it takes time to figure out that your decision was a mistake. You need to understand what is intrinsic value. The definition of intrinsic value is it's the actual worth of assets that you sell. And it's hard to get at. It sounds simple, but it's hard to get at on a lot of products. Apparently in housing, it's like maybe less than 25% is the actual intrinsic value of the product. When you reach out to buy a home, consider yourself as a home buyer now, how much do you care who was the plan checker for your home? Very less, right? You care about two things. What is the address? And all the bunch of components are there in the right spatial location. I mean, you don't even care how the window got there. Volumetric, panelized, I mean, the window is there and that's the window that I want. So there is a form of energy that brings all of those components to your address that forms a building. This is the intrinsic value of a home. Everything else is waste. So everyone that sees industrial constructions, specifically Viv, thinks on us, on the modular construction company, but we're actually a process optimization company. We're using the modular construction as a means to an end. We optimize a lot of the process. Those are the hidden innovations that you don't see, that those are non-tangible items. One such example is the factory build home program that allows us to save a lot on the inspections that are usually being done on site that causes time delays, costs, and so forth. So those two photos, actually this is how we started at the top. You can see the different layers of supply chain. This is just a snapshot. The home site is in blue. Everything was shipped to our location in green, built over there, packaged and sent on site. It turned out to be not the most efficient way. Money-wise, for each such a dashed line, there is a money associated with it. And it's just not money, it's dollar probability. Because in construction, the probability of spending this money is sometimes close to 50%, and you end up not guessing right. Today, we are in a more hybrid situation, trying to find the sweet spot of collaboration and integration with trade partners and how to really combine the best value, and how do we save about the hidden factors, which are waste in the process, everything that you see here, which is not part of the direct intrinsic value of the product. So yeah, the reason I'm saying that, I'm not sure that cats was the great example now. Stay with me. But everyone that talks to me knows that I love to talk about survivorship bias. And I love cats, believe me. The graph below over here, there's a graph that shows the severity of injuries of cats falling from the first story, second story, third story, and there's something really weird over here that happens on the ninth story. The injury level just goes down. So one theory says that the cat has enough time to just collapse his organs and fly like a squirrel and then to reduce the damage. The other theory says that it's a survivorship bias and no one really bothers to bring the dead cats to the experiment. I think it represents industrialized construction very well because you can easily get in love in technology, and that technology is not always targeting the intrinsic value of the product. It's something that you love to do. It's something that you want to do. It's not necessarily something that will help you do what you want. So those are just some examples that we optimized, that we were in love with, and there are companies built around this. I'm not saying that it's a wrong example, but it should be used and measured according to the intrinsic value of the product. This is a design system, BIM, being built 3 years ago. At that time, it was one of the most advanced systems that we used in order to automatically generate any design to production. It takes 2 minutes to design a home, choose your stories. We base the system on a room catalog that is already optimized for the best user experience. Those rooms are dynamic. You'll see it in a second. You can drag and drop the rooms. Later on, we created some sophisticated image analysis to automatically convert existing permits to production. Each such interaction between rooms, you can see that the walls disappears. And we refer to that as a modern compiler, like from the software space. You need to have the 2 stages of compile and build. Compiles over here generates the structural analysis, generates the cost assumptions that you have on the projects to give you predictability about what you're about to produce. Build was actually communicating with our factory and sending production files to the factory. This is where we started to understand intrinsic value much better, because the result besides this cool stuff, and there's a lot of companies that does it and translate it to a 3D beam. You get all the information you want on the beam and the bomb and all of that. It's ended up with, that's the structural analysis that you can see over here. It gives you a reflection, a real-time warning on the stability of the building, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing indication. Cost is in the bottom. And when you click on it, it's automatically transformed to a 3D model in all of the environments, any environment, Revit, SolidWorks, whatever it is. And that was the result. The result is actually taking the tribal knowledge that is on site, belongs to the general contractor, and transform it to a nightmare of documentation control in the factory. Every panel had the framing, the MEP, the closed panel system with the sheeting, CNC files, processes that locks you down into not being able to conduct changes. An avalanche of document control suddenly happened in the company, and we started to build and just employ people, software engineers, document controllers, PLM. What have we done? That was like, is that really improves our intrinsic value? Is that something that keeps the agility that we need to address the market responses? Today, we are in a much better situation at Viv. We are kind of like in a simplified version of it, in around model homes. There is a core that is fixed. We still need to service CNC machines and robotics. But that's where the money is usually being spent without really carefully thinking about that. It's also happened to us that too much of a control creates too much of a damage. It's really hard to estimate what is the cost of shortage for a company. In that case, you can see a plumbing pod that we have designed around a wonderful shower pan that was exactly 32.5 inches. The P-trap was exactly 8.5 inches. And when we finished everything and we have a backlog of 50 homes to be produced, the product was discontinued by the vendor. Lovely. And that's the culture in construction. I'm coming from the electrical space. If someone will not give me an obsolete cost 5 years down the road, I will never work with this microcontroller. We found out about it when we unboxed the shower pans. Like, oh, what do we do now? Luckily, we found something. We solved it. But the cost of shortage, I was amazed to see that there was another company exactly like us, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, Lutron Homes, that they were already in a high volume production, 60,000 homes, and the same case happened to them with a shower pan, the same exact case. And when you have 60,000 home commitments and you're driving like crazy to find your shower pan, that's what kills companies. So back to the cats, we survived. The innovation was cool, but it didn't help us a lot. There's a lot of other cost estimations in construction. Am I missing a photo over here or something like that? That's a very nice laser cutting system, but there should be a helical pile system over here. Oh, here it is. That's a helical pile system. We have tried to solve for foundations. We have designed and approved probably one of the most innovative bed frame system. It's a foundation system that you can build in a day, manufacture yourself. It costs like 10% less than a traditional foundation system. But the end goal, it was actually more expensive. And that happened here in earthquake zone. So imagine how much time you should spend with engineers to qualify a helical pile system in an earthquakes environment. When we had our core team building that, the engineers themselves participated in the new product introductory. It was brilliant. When we have tried to scale, we started realizing what is the cost of education? What is the cost of mistake? How much does it cost you to take a trade partner that is not used to this very unique exotic system to build it? And the cost of quality control, the cost of time came out much higher than our expectations. So just to sum up, how do we take decisions and how do I think about industrialized construction in general? Because a home as a product is the case, but you need to understand what the product is. It's not just the home and in all of its parts, it's the address, and it's the entire logistics around it. And if you understand the intrinsic value of it, I'm giving the example of 1 liter of a fuel over here, which is 34 million joules. A standard combustion engine can take only 25% out of this energy to drive you from point A to point B. This is more or less the efficiency levels of construction nowadays. We are in efficiency levels of being able to extract only 25% of the energy being spent in the product to the customer. The best decision mechanism that I found so far to avoid survivorship bias, because you will not always find the cats that died on the way to success, is to associate this dashed line over here. It's a very easy map to create with the unit of measure that helped you, that really pursue your value proposition for the customer. It's a dollar value, it's a carbon emission, it's everything that you would like to trade off. And when you understand that, it's much easier and less risky to take a decision on how do you compose your home as a product in such a moving target environment. Yeah, I think that's the last slide. I will keep questions to the end. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Shai. Very interesting. And we will continue with interesting examples. So our next speaker is Gish, who is the co-founder of Arrow Homes, also a local company. You have your office here close by in Mountain View, right? And your factory outside Sacramento. So another local initiative. So super welcome, Carl.
Thank you. Thank you all. As Yer said, Carl Gish, founder, one of the founders of Arrow Homes, really feel privileged to present the work of the team that got us to where we're at with you today. So I'm going to pour through a bunch of stuff, but I thought what would be helpful is to start with just grounding who we are, because we've heard from Curtis and Apoorva about apartments. Shai, I think you guys do both multifamily and single family. We are solely focused on residential infill development. For those of you who aren't familiar, in the United States, there's 86 million single family homes, not apartments, single family homes, 86 million. It's the largest asset class in the world, we think, at about $34 trillion. And the average home of those, actually more than half of those homes are more than 45 years old. California has some of the oldest. And as Buffy Wicks talked about, we have a shortage in California, 2.5 million homes. It's just really hard to build. So that's what we're focused on. We were founded about 4 years ago. We were incubated out of Innovation Endeavors, Eric Schmidt's venture capital firm, also very closely aligned with Stanford University. And we've raised a Series A and most of a Series B. We have 145 employees today. We are vertically integrated in that we do almost everything except some of the subs ourselves. And I'll talk more about that in a second. We finished last year with a $120 million run rate. We're building not affordable housing. We're building housing in Mountain View, San Jose, Menlo Park. We're not trying to build the most expensive house. We're not a custom home builder, but housing here is expensive. We're on track to be cash flow positive next quarter, which is a major milestone. As you guys know, we talked about some of the companies that haven't made it in this space. We're still standing. We're actually, we're starting to thrive, which is great. So the topic of this session really resonated with me when Jurka told us, because we wrote this into our business plan 4 years ago. My background is not in industrialized construction. I'm not an engineer, but I am a product guy. I spent my whole life building products for consumers. And first and foremost, something that we literally wrote this 4.5 years ago was that an insight I had is that a home is the most important product, an expensive product that anybody ever buys. But the process for infill spec development doesn't treat it like a product. It's more like a kit, right? Imagine having an iPhone or a car or a Dyson vacuum made by a kit. It's just, you'd laugh, it'd be insane. But that's how we build houses. Same way we did it 100 years ago. It's called stick built. Another thing we believe is that great design doesn't have to be more expensive. It just doesn't. The spec homes that are built by infill developers, and frankly, the greenfield developers, the guys who build the track homes here, is not inspired design. It hasn't changed in any meaningful way. It's not super livable. It's not healthy. It's not environmentally friendly. It's kind of lazy, if you ask me. We also believe that the efficiencies of building the same home over and over again outweigh the benefits of differentiation and customization. Those benefits being, oh, I can charge a bit more. I can differentiate it from the one down the street, whatever you name those benefits. And this was a big bet for us, to build the same home over and over again in residential infill. People, frankly, I was worried about it 4 years ago, but it has proven not to be a major barrier for us. Actually, it's becoming an advantage. So one of the things that we studied a lot of the players in the space, including Vive, Katerra, Blue Homes, everybody we could. Clayton, Champion, the successful builders, the guys building 60, 80 plus thousand homes a year in the US. What were the things that helped them not succeed, and what are the things that help the ones that are successful thrive? And one of the things we realized is that customization, the fragmentation of the process, all the different players that you don't control, was something that we needed to take as much control as that we could. That's why we're an end-to-end developer. We buy the land and we sell the home. So we own the process in between. And that allows us to keep the factory with consistent volume, to make adjustments where we need and we can control. And there's still so many variables that we don't control, but owning the process end-to-end, at least initially, was really important. The other thing is that we think the disciplines for other industries are absolutely translatable. Not all of them, and not exactly apples to apples, but they're absolutely translatable to translate to residential construction, particularly lean, and people have been talking a little about that. I mean, we actually have done LOD 450. We model our homes to that level in a CAD system, cloud-based CAD system, which nobody would ever do for a single-family home. If I told you I was doing that for my pet project custom home, you'd think I was insane. But it actually works really well when you're building the same home over and over again. And the last thing I'll just mention is something we believe, and my co-founder was the head of manufacturing for Daimler Chrysler globally. So he built and spun up automotive plants that are pumping out 500,000 cars a year. We both agreed before we started the company, no automation. Because we didn't know what the product was actually going to be or the process was going to be. There was no economic reason to make a big bet on automation. Something else we learned from a lot of the companies who came before, who made those bets before they had a stable process or product, very hard to play out. Okay, mention this. If you look at the right, that's just the sequence. That's an actual home we bought, $1.5 million. Sounds crazy, but that's what that home costs in San Jose. Around here, that would be $3 million, Palo Alto. We do a standard design, built it in our facility. We drop it on the site on a foundation, strip and stem foundation. 2 days till the roof is on, the whole home is there. It's essentially closed off. And then it takes us another 45, 50 days to finish it and sell it. That's the process. So one of the things that we've been super focused on, we do believe there's cost savings. We can be more efficient than the baseline, which is a spec builder. Their margins are about 8 to 10% on average. They can be higher or negative. But their process takes, in California, on average, about a year and a half. It can take 2 years in some places, like Palo Alto, forget it. It'll take you 2.5 years. And their process laid out up front is pretty much, you buy a plot of land, you design a home for that plot of land, right? You architect design it, do a set of permits, and then get that home permitted for that plot of land, and then build that home. And that's the process. It takes a year and a half. What we do is we actually, because we know what we're already building, we go out and this was an input into what we build. We analyzed all the real estate data, all the lot data, MLS, tax assessor data, zoning and planning data to say, hey, what's the optimal footprint? It's an optimization exercise. What home footprint, height, width, depth, floor area ratio, would be the optimal home design? And then we built or designed the home within those parameters. So what we do is we buy lots that fit our home, which is an inverse of what the process today exists for spec builders. So it gives us a high degree of certainty. It's constraining, right? Obviously we can't, we're short by 100 square feet. Damn, can't buy that lot. But it's quite powerful. So our process, as I mentioned, we actually have an approved permit before we buy the land. As Shai mentioned, we use state approved permitting for the building. which supersedes any local jurisdiction. So we're basically, we're starting at day zero when we actually close on the home. We've already started building it, right? So as soon as we actually can get permits now within about 50 days from San Jose, which is ridiculously short. It's one review cycle. Again, the process of repetition, they know us, they see the same plans over and over again, tons of benefits there. But we're now, our best time, I think is 126 days close to close. 126-day cash conversion cycle, which is kind of ridiculous for this industry. And those goals, we're not at 5 times faster or 3 times the margin yet, but the return on invested capital is higher, and we have a line of sight to those numbers. Okay, one of the things I mentioned before, we think great design doesn't have to be more expensive. So if you were a spec builder, you would not employ or contract with Olsen Kundig to build your spec home. You do if it was a custom, your dream home, which people do here in Atherton and other parts of the area. But they were intrigued with what we're doing, so we were able to partner with a world-class architect to design a home that wasn't about being modular or transportable. It was just an amazing, amazing home. And then we figured out how we could build it in pieces and ship it. These homes are net zero after about 12 years. They operate carbon negative. They operate carbon negatively. We have data now for the first home we built over 2 years ago. It's exceeded our original targets in terms of its efficiency and net energy output. The embodied carbon in the home is so low, that's how we get to net zero after about 12, 15 years. And we've started to capture NPS, Net Promoter Score, from our customers, and they recognize the difference in the design. They recognize the quality of being built in a factory and the caliber of materials, design, engineering that goes into the homes. How much time do I have? Yeah, okay. So what's been hard? Yeah. It's just shit. I mean, we're still standing. I don't want to jump off a building as a cat, but might be a useful skill. No, but seriously, 4 years ago, we were going to be gross margin positive on our first homes. We were going to be cash flow positive after a year. And we were going to be probably where we are today 3 years ago, basically. So it's just been much harder, taken longer. And some things have been easier, actually, or surprisingly positive, which I can talk a little bit about. But overall, just took longer, been harder. And a lot of validation. One of the things Shai mentioned, PG&E. You've got this monolithic in California, bureaucratic, and I guess they mean well. I mean, I've worked with a lot of the people there. They're just a quagmire of bureaucracy and red tape and ass covering. It's crazy. And we got to work with them. So we've been able to do that, consistency of effort and intelligent direction. One of my favorite expressions from Jim Collins. It can work, but it's hard. Safety culture in construction. We've had one recordable accident in 4 years. That didn't come by accident, including in our plant, by the way. The one recorded is on the site. Somebody, I think, stepped on a nail or they shot their foot with a nail gun. But that's really, really critical to us. And getting people who have been doing construction for 10 or 15 years, that sort of culture of machismo, and I don't need a safety harness, I'm only 7 feet or 10 feet up. It's hard. There aren't a lot of premium off-the-shelf solutions, components that we can consistently use. So that's something we're working actually with some of the manufacturers now that we have some scale. But that's been a problem. Like lean in construction is in some respects, if you watch a foundation, a single family foundation being done, it's like the opposite of lean. It's like how much non-value add, unnecessary work can you do? And they've got it down. I mean, it's amazing. Like, let's go back and forth and do this, that, and then bend that. Oh, it's crazy. So just finding that DNA, that sort of curiosity of how to take time and inefficiency out, super hard. Raising capital. Yeah, in this space, with all the I don't want to call them failures, the unsuccessful enterprises, it's been really hard for us. Oh yeah, we're going to get it right. Trust us. And even people who invested in a lot of these companies that did go public, they haven't done as well. The Open Doors of the world, they're struggling, some of them. So we've had some great investors, including Innovation Endeavors, and that's allowed us to keep going. Learning cycles of what I call, I've coined this, probably isn't a real thing, but design for manufacturing, transportation, and assembly, because that's critical for us. We have to be able, we don't want to do super wide loads. So we're constrained to sizes that we don't want to use California Highway Patrol. We want to just be underneath that, right? So by the time we learn it, and I was talking to Steiner about some of the parametric design improvements that are happening and what's happening with AI. Hopefully we can speed up those learning cycles or just model things way more effectively. And getting people to care about net zero. It was a big deal for us. It's one of our core pillars as a brand. Yeah, including regulators, government, vendors, customers. People don't seem to care so much. And that was even true before the last year plus. So it's kind of disappointing, but doesn't change what we're doing. What we learned, a little bit of repetition here, but really important. The first point there, which is people know that the home they're buying is exactly the same as the one down the street. And we were worried, I was worried about that as a brand product person. We actually, now it's a competitive advantage. People have come to us, this was a turning point for me personally. A couple of people came to us and said, we want an Aero home. So we now have, I don't know if it's there, yeah, like 2/3, 60% plus of our homes are pre-sold. People go through a home that's for sale and know that neighborhood over there, the exact same home, color and fixtures a little bit different, is coming, and they buy it. We actually just sold our first build on your lot. Somebody said, oh, I like where I live, but I want one of your homes on my lot. So that's been super big validation for us. And it's been encouraging. Like, people are vying for us to be successful. PG&E, even the permitting agencies and the politicians that we talk to. It's encouraging to see that. The design for those pieces, DFMTA, is super critical. And I think you mentioned, Shai, the cost of change. The lag we're not building software. By the time you get something permitted, it's like you're already onto it's just, those are hard. And the last thing I'll just leave you with is why care, which is on the net zero thing. So we think about our company as about exceptional design, precision engineering, and environmental friendliness, if you will, sustainability. And so we set out to say, look, it should be possible to build a home. By the way, one quick fact, 23% of global greenhouse emissions come from residential housing. Not transportation, not commercial. Residential housing. Almost a quarter comes from the leaky, shitty, 86 million US and God knows how many other homes across the world. So we thought, hey, it shouldn't be that hard to build one that doesn't make things worse. These are the codes. So you see the current code, after 60 years, I guess it is, a house would generate, that's today's code, 162 metric tons of CO2. 2030 code for California is asking for 42 metric tons. And if you're at code zero, carbon neutral, you'd actually, operationally, you'd still be at sort of, whatever it is, 50 tons of carbon, because that's where you started with the embodied carbon of building the house. So we started out to say, hey, can we have a lower embodied carbon? Can we have a super efficient envelope and systems and generate enough energy the home can be carbon negative operationally? Yes, we can. We did. And actually, we get to net zero after about 12 years. And after the life of a home, 60 years, it's almost 100 metric tons that we're equivalently taking out of the carbon footprint. That's it.
That's it, but that's great. So thanks a lot, Carl. We'll get back to you very soon. We have one more presentation in this session, and now we're leaving the local area. We are going global. We're going to South America, and we have Ernesto, the CEO of Valle. It's a housing company started in Chile, expanded to Peru, to Brazil, and also to the US. So you are super welcome, and you have your daughter with you as well. So both of you, welcome, and we're excited to hear your story.
Thank you.
Which one?
The green is forward.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. We are Ernesto and Andrea Valle. We're first and second generation of our family company. Today we'll share with you our 30-year experience to create a factory of affordable housing. Rather than adapting industrial tools to improve productivity in construction, we reshaped construction to operate like a true factory. So when you hear the word factory, what ideas come to your mind? We usually think about a production line and also products such as smartphones, cars, sodas, and many others that are the clear result of manufacturing processes carried out inside factories. Should we think then that buildings like these should be produced inside factories and therefore have industrialized construction? We're Valle, and we consider ourselves a factory. We have done that for 30 years without ever being part of the IC discussion. So we're very excited today to be here and sharing with you the way we have done things during these years in Chile and other countries. We started this path in 1994 as a traditional general contractor. And then in 1996, we started the transformation process to improve, to industrialize our construction system. In the year 2000, we began international expansion with operations in Peru. And after the subprime crisis, we strategically stopped building for third parties and became the exclusive developers of our own products. This was critical and strategical to ensure continuous production. This video shows the ceremony held last October to celebrate the completion of the final slab at the Villanova project in Peru. This project consists of 2,007 apartments and was built between 2014 and 2026 on 12 years of continuous construction. For this year, our goal is to build 3,000 apartments, giving permanent work to 2,000 people. Over the last 30 years, we have helped 45,000 families to be able to access an affordable housing. Our industrialized construction system helps us achieve costs that are 30% below market levels, which allows us to price our apartments 10% below market. Today, we operate on 5 countries. And in this slide, we highlight the key of our evolution through expanding through America. So we have the year we began the operations, the number of apartments delivered, the average size of the apartment, the number of products, and the land bank for future developments. International operations have been driven by invitations from local developers who are interested in our production system, and with whom we have formed strategic partnerships. We're in Chile, Peru, Brazil, United States, and Panama. Our product. Our product is not the building itself, but the individual apartments within it. These apartments are our standardized product. And to design these apartments, we design around 3 core principles: a minimal number of apartment layouts, a limited palette of finishing materials, and standardized room dimensions across all products. And these products are adapted to local market conditions and regulatory requirements in each country. This approach allows us to achieve a high level of standardization, reduce complexity, and increase repeatability, ensuring cost control and supply consistency, and enabling industrialization and design efficiency. These apartments are grouped into 3 standardized products by height. So we have 9 to 15 stories. Also, we have 4 and 5 stories, and 6 to 8 stories. The factory. Our product is not built in a factory. The factory is located in the job site. There we match supply and demand with no inventory. In a traditional production line, you have inputs traveling through activities and through stations while they become the final product. What we do is that activities travel through the job site and they are performed in a specific sequence and synchronized between them so that while the product is being created. So our core belief is if you want different results, you must do things differently. And we aim to streamline the construction processes into an on-site production line.
Now we are going to speak about the production line. There are 6 main factors that allow us to establish a production line on site. The first one is the activity sheet, then the video sheet, then we got the start date, the rhythmic execution schedule, the weekly work production sheet, and the team works. The activity sheet is a formal document that describes how has to be performed the activity. It defines all the predecessor, parallels, and successors activity, defines the resources you need, the materials, tools, machinery, personal protective equipment, and the work team, with his optimal production. Although, give all the quality and safety condition for the input, process, and output activities. The workers can access the activity sheet on their phones with a QR, and they got the document. And the video chip, beyond having the activity sheet, you got QR codes that provide access to short videos that highlight the most relevant execution aspect of each process. The start date. We are focused on the start date rather than in the finish date. An important feature of the activity sheet is that it establishes a start date for each activity within the production line, ensuring the correct sequence of the on-site execution and by a defined size of a crew. We ensure the on-time completion of each activity within the overall framework defined by the factory concept. The rhythmic execution schedule. We began developing and applying the rhythmic execution schedule concept in 1996 using Excel spreadsheets. Today, based on the activity start date within the project, the configuration of the building and the condominium, and the defined work area, we automatically generate the Gantt chart that identifies the start dates of each activity in a basic day and the specific work area of each activity. In this video, we show in action the tool we have developed for automation creation of the rhythmic schedule Gantt chart, ensuring the unified framework of the job site across all projects without a fixed production line as in a real factory. The weekly work production sheet. We use it to plan during the project the execution of the upcoming week work in the job site. Each production sheet contains all the activity with the quantity of work to be done that must be executed during the week in a daily basis by one work team crew. These data are the input of the daily schedule. In the weekly production worksheet, we integrate the activities and assign them a specific work team crew. The number of the members of the crew and the quantities are our variables. And we can have in the week production activity quantities, dollar for quantity installed, the crew productivity, and the value of the crew. At the end of each week, we record the completed activities to measure the crew productivity, beyond simply counting the number of scheduled activities completed in each week. This allows us to improve the necessary corrective action to ensure appropriate sequences and synchronization workflow at the job site. The workers. The work team are the greatest source for productivity improvement. We seek to minimize the use of subcontracting in our projects. We work with our own work teams under permanent contracts, not temporary. We believe that both our social impact and our company success are driven by the performance of our team. That is why we have implemented policies to recognize and reward their contribution. All members of our work teams trust that our company provides continued and stable work, giving them security of a reliable source of income, the opportunity to enjoy real vacation, and a clear path career growth within the company. The key of our success beyond implementing the production line system lies in our long-term commitment to address the need of affordable housing while recognize the value of our workers, people who truly bring our family vision on life. We are not looking for the biggest slice of the pie, but we make the pie bigger so it can be shared by everyone. That's why productivity is our obsession. Our goal is not the profit generated by our family business. Our goal is to contribute to the happiness of the low-income family who gain access to dignified home, possible through the responsibility and productivity work of those who collaborate with us. At the same time, we seek the happiness of their families with a long-term development opportunity by working with dedication and love along with us. We give. What we give is what we receive, happiness. We want to warmly invite all of you to visit us in Santiago, where our model have the most level of maturity. And we also like to thank the Stanford University for giving us the opportunity to share our experience with you, and special to Leonardo Richmoller and to Simi Aluku that bring us here today. Thank you very much.
I would say, Ernesto and Andrea, we also say thank you to you for coming here and sharing your amazing story with us. It's truly, truly inspiring. And please have a seat, both of you, and all the other speakers of the session. You are welcome to join our discussion. And wow, I think this was very, very inspiring, very, very interesting. I don't know where to begin, almost. But I mean, we can see that we have 4 very interesting companies spanning very local to very, maybe not global, but at least multi-country footprint. We see also spanning from single family to multi-family. And I think not least the last presentation shows us that industrialized construction is not only about factory production and modules and so on. It can be very industrialized if you do it like what you have done with your company. And so that, I think, was very eye-opening and very inspiring. And it can be very product-oriented and industrialized without a factory. So where should we begin? I think, Carl, Arrow Homes. We always hear that customization is the key to high-end houses and the success. But you prove them all wrong here. So can you mentioned it, but can you tell us a little bit more about how you dare to take that decision? Because it goes almost completely opposite to what everybody says, that, oh, high-end or at least high-priced houses, oh, you have to adapt to the customers, customize and all that. You don't do that, you do the opposite. So can you say a couple of words how you have pulled it off?
Yeah, it remains to be seen if we pulled it off, but we're making progress. But
you seem to be at the
we're close.
Right,
I don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah.
But we are close, and our intent, and it does not end. Was so inspiring about actually getting to making a difference in thousands and thousands of people's lives, which is ultimately what we would like to. I have the ambition of having some small part in that, but. Here we are building multi-million-dollar homes in Silicon Valley. So we aren't trying to build the people who want to have a trophy home. Like, that's not who we're building for. They're going to build their own custom home and they're going to spend whatever they spend. What we really started with the customer focus. So our customers, people who want to buy the best home they can buy for the money they have in the town they want to live in. And if you look at what they care about, it's quality, resaleability, and livability. And that's the stuff we focused on. And great design, right? The livability. So we actually think the sort of customization, people will say that that's what they want, but if you look at what's actually happening, that's why we tried not to change the buyer journey. We're not selling direct to consumers per se. We're putting our homes on the market and let them decide an Arrow home versus a Thomas James home, or a another builder's home or an old home that they want to refurbish. We're offering an alternative. And we're very clear, though, internally about what the benefits of an Aero home are, and that's what the whole team is focused on. And ultimately, the market decides, and consumers decide. And you have to be, to not pay service to that is, I think, folly.
Thanks. And Shai, with Viv, you chose a different route there, at least initially. You have a more flexible, customizable system to be able to adapt to the customers and so on. So can you say a couple of words? How do you manage to not to drown in too many project-specific solutions while having a system and a sort of a product platform behind it? And I know also you told me yesterday that you have done some really, really impressive cost reductions. So how do you manage to keep that super difficult balance?
Yeah, well, it's still a challenge, and we haven't solved it. We started with full customization. Today, it's something in between. We divide our product into 3 levels. Level number 1 is the core. Those are the things that we never change. The frame, the sheeting, everything that we build in the factory in the same consistent way. The second layer is the layer that addresses different total addressable markets. We want to expand to a total addressable market. We do have a model home program. But then when you try to optimize for the home and the site, 1 out of hundreds home sites being disqualified. So you need to have some flexibility, not just for the customer standpoint, but if you want to optimize for cost on the energy performance, exterior insulation is a parameter in the system. So we've designed a system to have those configurabilities without interrupting any production line. Thickness of insulation, and we created this interface that we know that if you change that, it doesn't change the way you produce. The last layer is again, it's the last layer that opens up more of the total addressable market, which within the core we have different layouts. We don't change a lot. We have optionalities and we have tiers from the tier 1, 2, and 3. We are backed by Lennar, and so I'm exposed to a lot of the market all over, right, across the US, and we know what's probably the cheapest prices out there for commodity products, wood, frame, and windows. So we worked closely with Lennar to kind of optimize the product to this missing middle. But that's the solution. Core do not change, parametric, where it doesn't impact your production to fit different energy codes, and tiers for the customer levels.
Yeah, interesting. So it's about setting up the rules for your product,
yes,
and know where to be flexible and where to be very, very strict.
And as Carl said, we didn't automate a single thing so far because it's still moving.
We're on a journey, I think.
Yeah.
So, but that's almost, it leads us to a question to Apoorva and Curtis, because you've built your concept around, product approach and using volumetric modular elements that will be manufactured by external partners. So what's your way of keeping control of the product from cloud while relying heavily on external partners? So what's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, maybe I can speak to this. It is more challenging to do if you remember my 2x2, the box that we chose where we have influence, we're not vertically integrated, so we only have influence. So that is a challenge. We spent 2 days at Gurdon just to say, hey, this is what we want to do with cloud. 2 full days just sitting in a room and whiteboarding. And that's what we do day to day, essentially. But yeah, we can't take giant leaps. We can take little incremental steps. That's the drawback to our model. But the benefit is that as a small, lean, young company, we can do large projects because we have established partners that have track records that we can lean on. So it's a little bit of a give and take, but we got to take little steps. We can only influence so much.
We end up, I think it informs partner selection for us. So and how we certify partners and how we think about what are the factories that we can work with. We go to the factories, as Curtis mentioned, we spend time whiteboarding, we understand what does their line look like, how would our product actually fit into their line, what are the quality controls that are in place at the factory, what would we have to do? So there's a lot of back and forth to understand, can that factory actually be a certified partner on our end? And I think factories we've seen, we're able to levy that degree of influence so far because we're bringing pipeline to factories. And so that's their business incentive to want to do this because we are filtering good customers for them. And because we're trying to bring programmatic customers to them. And that's the other piece that really helps levy that influence.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also, that there has to be a relationship piece of it and a long-term relationship aspect of it. And I think that's something you talked about also yesterday when we met Ernesto, that the long-term perspective is interesting. Sorry, I cut you off, Curtis. Maybe.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add that you put yourselves in the factory shoes and you're trying to, say, hit 1,000 modules a year or something. There's some number there. You're trying to do a lot of projects that were entitled conventionally, and then they're modularized. And you have all these variations and you're trying to hit your throughput. So you can just imagine why we have some leeway when we work with partners, because we say, hey, let's do our standard unit. You've already prototyped and built it. No surprises. We are trying to help you get your throughput up. With that being said, when we have pipeline across multiple developers around one standard, you start to have some benefits. So I just want to echo that. Like, factories want to work with us for that reason.
Yeah. And Andrea and Ernesto, again, very interesting to see. I think that the documents and the videos you showed us could have been taken from any advanced factory we visit. We see the standard operation sheets, we see the very, very thorough planning and so on. So I think bringing that to the construction site, well, then you create the factory there, which is very interesting to see, I think. And also interesting that you have managed to take this concept to different markets. So I'm curious, because that's like the wild dream of many companies. We want to scale, we want to take this to many countries. So how do you replicate? Do you bring the same product to the new markets, or do you develop new products for the new sort of local market that you're entering? How do you work with that?
Well, first of all, we are our target is the family housing. So in Chile, in Peru, we only make apartments of 3 bedrooms, with 5 beds, 1 or 2 bathrooms.
So a very strict product orientation.
Yes, we have some little change because normative of this country, but it's very defined the products we can make. In Brazil, the social market is only apartments of 2 bedrooms, so we make 2 bedrooms apartment.
Yeah.
In Panama, we make 3 bedroom apartment for 5 beds. And in United States, we make right now different apartments, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms. But in all our products, we standardize the different dimensions of the rooms, of the different rooms, because the use of the country. United States are bigger than we use in Chile and Peru. In Brazil are smaller than we use in Chile and Peru. The same living room, so bedroom. We have to work it out for each place, but that is not a problem because we buy all our machines for each production line. Although in Chile we got 5 production lines, in Peru we got 4 production lines, in Brazil we got 2 production lines. And each production line can have some difference in the product we make. I see. But when we pick up one product, we have to make at least 5 years of the same product because we buy all the machines and we train all the people for doing that product.
Yeah.
And we cannot be changing all the day the product because we won't be a factory.
That's very interesting and inspiring, I think. And product orientation has some interesting benefits, I think. And one is optimization. It's possible to optimize. If you have a product, you have taken away some constraints and you can really optimize in various ways. So I'm actually curious to all of you if you want to share some aspect of optimization that you are extra proud of or that made an extra impact for you. And yeah, optimization, that's the question. Who wants to start? Ernesto?
Yeah.
Yes.
When you pick up a product and you are going to make it about 2,000, 3,000 times, then you are going to have many problems. But you can solve the problem in 100, and a 300, and a 400 product, and then you got a continuous improvement of what you are doing. You can make continuous improvement. When you are changing your products every day, when you just notice that something was wrong, you don't get chance to the improvement.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important in a factory, have a product.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get product, you cannot improve in the long time, and you cannot get shorter cost in your work.
And if I
and the
understand,
people have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
If they do always the same work, they just know how to do it well. Although in every different job site we begin, because our production lines have to move from one job site to other job site
Yeah.
for meet demand. When we begin in another job site, we have the passion to go with all the workers and read all the activity sheet, so be secure that he really remembers and understands how he has to do the things.
Yeah.
Because in construction, the workers used to do things like they like to do it.
Yes, exactly.
In a factory, no.
No.
They have to do the things like they should do it.
So-
and that's the biggest advantage of us a factory that gives us better products and clients more satisfied with what they receive. And I
That's-
always say, my workers, you don't work for my company. You work for the people of low income that is going to live in this apartment.
Yes, the customers.
Because if you someday make your work with angry because I don't know what happened in your house,
Yeah.
who is going to be damaged for not doing well is going to be a family
Exactly.
of low income incomes that is going to live there 20 or 30 years, and he will pay a lot of money for a lot of time.
Yeah.
So they have to be responsibility for what they do.
That's very inspiring. Other optimization successes or so?
Yeah.
Apoorva or Curtis? Seems
happy
like
to-
you're nodding.
Happy to speak to some. I mean, it's not necessarily where you would expect. Like for us, we've been pretty transparent that we haven't gotten the factory cost savings necessarily, even with volume and standardization. But where we have seen some interesting successes, and maybe there's something here where it's hard to productize the room unit, and we've talked to all those reasons. I will say the state does help us. Across California, we can use the state, and we have gotten 2-week permits for a 100-unit multifamily building. Of course, you have the local, that's the counterpart, so that's still the bottleneck. But where we have one with productization is with what we call Cloud Connect. That's probably the best example. So you can't productize yet and get one approval, but what you can do, and what we've done is have an MEP Quick Connect system. We've gotten the chance to have every cloud apartment have, let's say, a wall-mounted toilet so that the plumbing lines can have enough drop to get to Cloud Connect, and you can install your full plumbing stack in the box from the factory, if you could follow that. That's a standard for us. The Cloud Connect system is productized because we have gone through IAPMO testing, which is the plumbing body that gets into your uniform building code. And that has led us to be outside of the normal approval process because there's a lab, IAPMO has a lab, we can prototype it, we can test it to seismic, to failure, to time, to water hammer, all those things. And once it's approved, as long as you use that same plumbing system in all of our modules, which are not productized, because you still have to go through a discrete approval process, we can basically use that system across California and eventually across the country. So just a little bit of a case study where there are systems to productize, and we're trying to lean into those because we're not there yet. Eventually, the whole unit, I think, can benefit from this. But again, we're slowly getting there.
Yeah.
The other part of it, I think, is to the question you were posing around, like, what is it then that we're actually optimizing? And we're using productization to focus on field costs, and that is defining our entire product roadmap. So this quick connect system is part one of optimizing field costs, because that's where we are seeing the system breakdown. And so when you think about what does the rest of our product roadmap look like, looking at how do we productize everything in the corridor so that in the field, the least amount of work that has to happen can happen, or can happen in the most efficient way. And so we're really, the outcome that we're focused on, even as we decide what's on our product roadmap, is how is this impacting field costs?
Yeah. Shai, do you have any optimization?
Oh, I have plenty, but just in a nutshell, I think that this is where data kicks in, because we have the data first. I was working with Julia on sustainability. Where is she? Sorry. Hi. But waste is an obvious example. We are a zero waste framing system and sheeting. We use a lot of nesting mechanism to save on material. The less obvious examples is we are just part of the value chain. Vendors provide us products like windows. They also industrialize the windows, reaching out to them on exchange programs, on pallets, and optimizing for the windows to save on their part, also happening at VIF. Last one, I think that this is where the magic kicks in. It's when you close the cycle of your technology and you start to generate the data as a closed loop. One great example is the weight of the building. How many companies really knows what's the final weight of the building? Very few. No one weights the building at the end. Just go and build the other weight. We weight every panel. When you go back and you analyze what the structural engineer was doing in the calculations, the first assumption is what's the weight of the building. And the code adds factors on top and top and top. You end up with a 5 to 6x calculations of the weight of the building. We know what's the weight of the building in a wet condition, in a dry condition, things that no one knows. And this is another layer of optimization that you can go back to your drawings and justify that as a performance-based analysis.
Yeah. Interesting with the power of continuity in both processes and the product and solutions and so on. So, Carl, do you have any optimization?
Yeah, not to belabor the point.
babies?
Yeah, for us, it's a constant.
Yeah.
It's like one of our core values as a company is continuous improvement, right? It's a lean principle. It's just what we do, and it's really in that looking at time and speed and non-value add, and especially non-value add, non-necessary work. So we've done things like originally when we first set the mods, we didn't have the roofs on the mods. So we had trusses that we would then crane onto and have to attach and all the rest of that goes with it. And so one of the big things we said, you know what, it'll be a huge game changer and allow us to deal with weather if we can actually ship the mods with the roofs. So it was an engineering and design problem, but to put all the HVAC, all the insulation, the underlayment, everything on the roofs except for the final tile and solar. We even had, then we're like, okay, well, the constraint of the truck. What if we had a hinged roof and you actually lower it once it's set? So it's just constant, right? It's like, where do you do a Pareto, right? Of, hey, where's the time being spent? Can we get that down? It's just innovation, continuous improvement. I think that's part of what makes it fun and exciting. It's like there's always problems to solve.
Andrea, do you have any optimization?
Well, continuous improvement is my favorite, but
we all love it, right?
Since we have like a limited palette of finishing materials, you buy large volumes, you can get better prices. Also, when one production line gets problems with one material being delivered, they can lend from another production line, and they continue with their production. Also, when you sell the unit, you need to keep some materials, paint or tiles, to fix future problems. We just keep some of them, but they're useful for all of our projects because they all use the same finishing materials. So yeah, there's plenty of product. When you have a defined product, you can go into much deeper detail, and that allows us to have tools to manage the production line in a better way.
Thanks a lot, all of you, for this very, very inspiring I think we have maybe a couple of questions from the audience. Am I right? Yes, we have one there. I think Kemp, if you say your name and where you're from.
We also have one online.
Hello, thank you for the very inspiring sharing. My name is Jianpeng Cao. I'm from the University of Hong Kong. I'm an assistant professor doing the research on industrial construction. So actually, I have like 3 questions, but I try to make it short. So for the Curtis, like I have a question for you. It's like you talk about this cloud-connected platform. So I'm wondering, like, what is the criteria you use to select your suppliers? And yeah, so this is the question. And another question for the Shai. Like,
I think we will have to stick to maybe two questions. We have many questions and we have one online. So 2 questions.
Okay, 2 questions. Okay. So for Shai, like you talk about like is 100% modular more efficient, right? So do you consider like combine the modular construction with like, for example, panelized construction to have this hybrid like approach? So that's my second question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so we start with the first one then.
Yeah, I could answer. I'll throw it to Apoorva for like our certification process. But yeah, we're working with a factory actually in Hong Kong right now, and there's a general sense of credibility and track record, and can they be financed? But I'll let Apoorva answer more of that. I think to your second question, we have looked into panelized hybrid models. We're not there yet, but like we get often 5/3 buildings, right? 5 stories, type 3A wood over 3 stories of concrete. And then oftentimes you'll have 2 stories of residential in those podium levels, which just kills us because it's so inefficient, right? If we could ever do panelized in those podium levels, that would be such a cool use of like light gauge panelized, but we're definitely not there yet. But certification, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, on the certification side, if you think about it, we want to make deals happen. The way deals are going to happen is we have to make them underwritable. We have to make sure that lenders are comfortable financing them and other financing partners are comfortable with the rest of the team that's at the table. And so that really drives how we certify partners. And so we'll look for things that lenders will ask about, which are, what is the experience of this player in the market you're in? What is their modular expertise? How is their so if it's a factory, how is their factory facility run? What is the performance management that's happening on the factory floor? Is the factory selecting the workers that are also working on site? So we'll look at that. We'll also look at a lot of their commercial terms and just how they engage with partners, because what we found is when you're trying to change an industry, the right partners at the table, especially early on, is actually really important. And so we'll see, who is it that we're working with at the leadership level? How are they engaging together? How problem solving focused are they? So those are more of like the softer things that we'll look at. But for us, it's really understanding, can they do the technical product work that's required? Can they be financeable? And so what are their, what is their own demand pipeline look like? What does their balance sheet look like? Are they sustainable? And then finally, what does their partnership orientation actually look like? So those 3 things for us are really important in selecting the right partners.
And the second question was for Shai, right?
Shai.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whether to go fully modular or to combine. So the short answer is yes, definitely combine and find the synergy. This is what we do. Actually, by numbers, when we were vertically integrated, doing everything, we had a barrier to achieve cost and scale. Scale is another very important factor. Today, on our Build on Your Own Home Site program, we have reached a sell price to a customer of $250 square foot. It's uncomparable. Everyone can log into the Viv Home site and buy a Viv Home at a $250 square foot. We achieve that only by shifting into a less vertically integrated and more to a synergy trade partner program, with so many considerations, commute expenses. I mean, there's more than one parameter in this equation, and synergy is the key.
So we had a question online, right?
Yes, we have one question online. It's from Sarah Rankohai. Pardon if I have butchered your last name. She's from the Can-Am Group in Canada, prefabricated modular builder. Okay, The question is as follows. Delivery models like IPD, which are collaborative and innovative, how do you see that they can support these industrialized construction methods? Could, quote, collaborative delivery and contractual methods, end quote, like IPD, have negative impacts on these, on building these customized models too? If yes, how? So what's the impact do you see of these IPD or collaborative and innovative contract models?
I wish I could throw this to someone else in the room here, but I can take a first stab at it. All I could say is very high level. We have a system. Like, say, Cloud Connect is like the first of one of our inventions, but we believe plumbing scopes are drastically reduced, right? So we have to convince plumbing sub, general contractor, developer, say, hey, we've tested it, this works. Early on, we're going to development ourselves because that is not a good story if we're not developing it ourselves. Theoretically, in an IPD model, as we get partnerships going and we have a multi-party agreement, it makes some sense that everyone's starting to embrace innovation and embrace risk together. And there's like a high level, some type of shared risk, shared profit pool, and we all kind of win and lose together, especially when we have a portfolio of like 10 projects and we can keep learning on the way. But like at a very high level, that's why we're interested in it. And have true partnerships. It's not like we're partners, but we're still having our surface level contracts that are completely separate. Like we want to actually be partners. So maybe I'll stop there.
Yeah, I can't help make a comment.
Yes, please.
Sorry. Martin Fischer, one of the authors of the IPD book. So it was a little painful for me to hear in the question IPD reduced to a contract approach. So I suggest to rethink that. Yes, contract is great to have, and the two gurus of IPD contracts are in the room, Howard Ashcraft, Will Lichtig. So this is a really great luxury we have here. But IPD is really an approach to create a high-performing building. It's really a method or whatever you want to call it. And I think what we've seen here, in my mind, we have seen 4 examples of high-performing buildings, organizations creating high-performing buildings, in different contexts with a different, vision, and therefore the approach that you took to integration, what you showed, great integration of product and process and organization, which is, I know, an abstract way of saying, but that's basic, and information, which is basically the backbone of integrating project delivery. So I think we could write half a book based on this session on IPD and for many kinds of housing. But IPD contracts are great, but don't think of IPD just as contracts, please.
Thank you for the words from the professor. One last question from the audience, and then I don't want to stand between you and lunch. So we have one question here.
Mohammed Al-Hussein from University of Alberta.
You will get a mic in 10 seconds. No, 5 seconds. 3.
Mohammed Al-Hussein from University of Alberta, Canada. But inside I have a precast business. So I got into big projects, building a stadium. I received a contract from the GC. And he said, you are a subcontractor, build it. We'll pay you when we get paid. We'll pay you if we get paid. We get paid first. So how do you deal with projects? How you start the project unless you have your own money up front as a manufacturer? So I had to say no to that project because I couldn't really, I have to build everything by the time it gets to the site, which was even delayed for 2 years after that. And so how do you deal with the finance of your projects when you start? Because I noticed also that some of you gravitate into, start with panelized, gravitate into more volumetric, and then mentioning that you end up building our own. So we became the developers and the owner. Would that be a way out of this issue?
So it's a big question. We don't have time to dig maybe deep enough. But I think maybe, do you have any comments on it, Andrea or Ernesto, or anyone, of course? But I was thinking of you, of your internal.
The question is about prefabs.
Financing the project.
Yes.
we finance. We usually seek financing from the banks, but many times that financing can be very slow, and we finance the projects. Meanwhile, we get the financing from the bank, but that's possible because we have been operating for many, many years, and we don't take our utilities, the profits, we don't take them. We'll leave them for the business to grow and for the model to keep scaling, to reach more people, more places. So we make projects, we make profit, we leave the profit there, so we keep going. And that's very important for us because since we have a production line, it has to be continuous. We can't have a project and then stop for 6 months and start again 6 months later. We need to finish one and start the next one, the next one, the next one. So the people move from one job site to the other, and the machines are never idle because they're our machines. So no stopping, and if we have to finance, meanwhile the bank finances us, we do it.
Apoorva, you have a comment as well?
Yeah, I think the question that I'm hearing from you at the end of the day is really, how real is the deal? Is I think the question that I heard in what you were posing. And I think for us, a lot of it, how we choose to do it, our model is horizontally integrated. So we have partners who are essentially asking that question, which is this deal actually real? Is this going to happen? Am I spending all this design work, all of this work in pricing something that's ultimately not going to play out? And I think there are two things that we'll do. One is we focus so much on qualifying the right customers from the get-go. So before we'll even bring the group to the subcontractor, the general contractor, the factory, we will have spent time really understanding, what does this customer's capital stack look like? What is their record for historical deals? Are they a group that's actually serious? What are the milestones that they have associated with the project site that they're engaging with us on? Because we honestly, our model predicates itself on working well with all of our supply chain partners. So if we don't bring real deals to the table, it hurts our relationships. And the way we do that, first and foremost, is how we qualify the groups that we're bringing to the table. And then I think secondarily, what we'll do is also engage the subcontractors and bring them on the calls to actually meet the customer. So you yourself see, hey, this is real, this is actually happening. So those are two things that we found helpful in actually moving the deal forward. But the first big one is really, do we have an understanding of what does the capital stack for this particular developer, this client look like? Because without it, we aren't able to provide that confidence to the rest of the supply chain. And we need to be able to do that in order for our model to be successful.
Thanks a lot, Apoorva. Do you have a quick comment, Ernesto? I think you have the mic already.
Very quick comment. The factory cannot stop. You can always remember the subprime crisis. Everybody stopped. We didn't stop. We built 2,000 apartments without bank, just with cash, because we cannot leave our workers. We cannot close. The factory doesn't close. The factory works. And we make a lot of stock, but after 1.5 years, we were the only one in the market with product. So that was a very big bet we make, but the comeback was bigger than when we bet. You cannot stop in a factory.
Thanks a lot, all of you speakers. As I have said now too many times maybe, but I'll say it again. Very, very interesting, very inspiring. So thanks a lot. We'll continue discussions over lunch. We will be back here at 1 to continue with even more presentations. So again, thanks a lot.